Okay, so tomorrow you have a test. It is going to cover lessons 6-1, 6-2, 6-3, and 6-4.
This is the last test, right?
Last test of the third quarter. Okay, it will have 20 questions on it. I've given you back your quizzes so you can use those to study. However, on the test, I know on the quiz there were questions with variables and the exponents. However, the questions from 6-1 and 6-2 for the exponents will only involve numbers. All right, so for 6-1, you need to know what to do with a negative exponent. You also need to know what to do when the exponent is a 0. So for the test for tomorrow, focus on questions more 1 through 3. Okay, I know on the quiz we did the questions 4 through 9, but for the test tomorrow, know what to do with the negative exponent. Now let me see what's on the next slide. And again, you really don't need to focus so much on the second page of this study guide. However, let's do some practice problems. What if I gave you 4 to the negative 2 power? Okay, go ahead. You can finish it. Okay. All right, go ahead, Paulina.
Oh, okay. So you do turn into a fraction, and it's 1/4 to the second power, and then you multiply with, you multiply, so it would be 4 times 4, which would be 16, so you would do 1/16.
Beautiful. Okay, remember, a negative exponent turns the number into a fraction. It does not make the number negative. And then on the test tomorrow, you will have to figure out what 4 times 4 is, which is 16. Now, let's say it's a negative number. Let's say it's -2 to the negative 3 power. What does this one become? Or what does it evaluate to? When it's -2 in a parenthesis to the negative 3 power. Deanna.
The -2 in parentheses with to the power of 3, it's going to be on the bottom of the fraction.
Beautiful. She knew that this negative exponent here turned it into a fraction. And then now we're going to figure out what -2 times -2 times -2 is. Okay. Good. -8.
What if it was in parentheses?
Okay. For this problem, it would actually turn into the same answer. So if it were like this, the negative sign isn't held with the 2, so it's going to go in front of the fraction. Then the 2 will be positive in the bottom, and then we would still figure out 2 times 2 times 2, which would be 1/8. But that negative sign that wasn't in the parentheses, it's just going to be sitting and waiting in front of the answer. Yes?
Would it be the same if if they had parentheses and then the negative was outside of it?
Okay, it would be the same answer, yes. So let's say it was a negative like this. It would still be a negative 1/8 answer. These are all excellent questions. Okay, yes?
Could you put it like -1/8, or does it have to be 1/8?
Okay, it could be anywhere as long as there's one negative sign. So it could be out front, it could be the negative at the bottom with the 8, or in front of the whole fraction. So it could be up with the 1, the bottom, or in front of the whole thing. They all mean the same thing. But just remember, if you end up with 2 negative signs, it simplifies the positive. All right, let's look at a 0 exponent. So what if I have 2 to the 0 power? What is that answer? Good. What if I have -2 in parentheses to the 0 power?
Negative.
Okay. this negative sign is held in, and any number to the 0 power is 1. However, if there's no parentheses, remember that negative sign that's right here, it's not being held next to the 2, it's going to be in front of the answer, and it's -1.
So if the negative sign is contained,
Then it's positive. Excellent. Think of it like that. So if it's contained within the parentheses, it's +1. Now, if you have a parenthesis like this is also -1. Yes, Alexa.
Oh, sorry. So let's say that parentheses, the negative is contained because the negative doesn't cancel out, would it still be positive? Or would the negative go to the equation?
All right, tell me numbers. Like a negative base?
No, like a negative no, like a negative base, yeah, but it's the third power.
Okay, so like, let's say it's -2 and no negative exponent. Okay, this just becomes the whole number, or becomes an integer. So this really turns into -2 times -2 times -2. If there's no negative exponent, it's not turning into a fraction, and this would be -8.
so for every exponent that's an odd number, it's going to end up negative.
Correct. Okay, if it's an even exponent and your negative numbers in parentheses, it will be positive. That's a good point that she brought up. So if this were -2 to the 4th power, then when I do this, I get -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. Now up here, when I did them 2 at a time, I got +4, but then when I went again with a positive times a negative, that's how I got the negative. Here, this turns into +4, this turns into +4, and this would be +16. Now, if it were -2 to the -4 power, this is where it would be the fraction. So again, the negative exponent makes the fraction. Everybody good with the exponents? Know those 0 powers again. It was on the quiz, it's going to be on the test again. And then know what to do when the exponent is negative. Okay, let's look at 6/2 now. 6/2, this is the fraction exponents. Okay, this first page of the study guide would be good practice. Okay, again, you see no variables here. There won't be variable square root questions or variables with under the radical. So here, remember, the bottom of your fraction is the root. So if I need to pick a better number. Let me fix this and make this an 8. If I have 8 to the 3/2 power, the bottom number of the fraction is the root. The top number is the exponent. So I will turn my rational exponent, my fraction exponent, into a root. It becomes the square root of 8 raised to the 3rd power. And this doesn't work. Okay, because it's not a perfect square. So let me change my exponent. Let me flip it around. Let's make it 2/3. So I'm going to do the 3rd root of 8 and then raise it to an exponent of 2. So the 3rd root of 8 is 2, and then I square 2, and you get 4. Yes?
If it doesn't work, do you
It will work. It was my mistake trying to make it up on the fly here. They will all be perfect roots. They will all be perfect squares, perfect cubes. What I'm going to do is later on, I'm going to add a little lesson to this. It's not in your textbook, but I'm going to show you how to break down non-perfect roots, because it's going to be very important for you next year in geometry, because you won't be able to use a calculator, and you're going to have to break down square roots quite often. So I'm going to add that in some point before the end of the school year so you're ready for geometry next year. But all of the questions on the test tomorrow will be perfect roots. Let me do another one. So let's say I have 16 to the 3/4 power. So again, the denominator is the root. So I'm trying to find what number times itself 4 times will give me 16. And that will be 2. And then 2 to the 3rd power gives me 8. Okay, so you will have questions with fraction exponents. You will have some basic where it's just 16 to the 1/2 power, where technically I don't have to, square or cube anything. I'm going to do the square root of 16. It's raised to the 1st power, but technically after you do the root, anything to the 1st power is just itself. Yes?
This is a rule about something not being negative, and I forgot what it is.
Okay, so we're not doing any negative square roots. You will cover that in Algebra 2 because those are non-real numbers, those are imaginary. So all of our numbers underneath the square root are going to be positive. Okay, so you're not covering negative numbers under the radical symbol because those are imaginary. And that will be covered in Algebra 2. All right, so that's basically it from 6.1 and 6.2. From 6.3, this is where you need to memorize. So this second page of the study guide for 6.2, this is excellent practice. And again, the answers are on the last page. Then from 6.3, this is going to be where you need to memorize the names. Okay, the study guide, let's see, it does not have a guide. This is where you are calculating the degree. When you find the degree of a monomial, all you do is add the exponents. So for example, if I give you a monomial and I say it's going to be 5xy to the 4th, what would be the degree of this monomial?
4.
Okay, remember the x has a little 1 here, so the degree would be 5. When it's a monomial, you're going to add all of the exponents, and that gives you the total degree. Let's try another one. What if I give you 6x to the 4th, y to the 5th? What would be the degree of this monomial?
5.
Okay, again, there's no plus or minus signs, so this is all together. So I have to add 4 plus 5 and get 9. What's happening is I think you're confusing it with the polynomials. Now, when it says find the degree of the monomial, you add all the exponents. But when it says find the degree of the polynomial, for example, 3x to the 5th plus 4x squared y to the 5th plus 8z4. For the polynomial, you look at each monomial separately. So for this one, the degree of this first term is what? 5. The degree of the second term is?
No, wait, no.
7. The degree of the last term is?
4.
Okay. Now, when it's the polynomial, you don't go back and add all these numbers. We look for the largest one. So don't get confused with finding the degree of the polynomial versus finding the degree of the monomial. So for the polynomial, you find each degree separately and then look for the largest. This degree would be 7. Everybody see the difference? So when it's a monomial, and each one of these is a monomial. Notice how I did each monomial separately and added the exponents. Then I look for the biggest. Yes?
Would the answer just be 7?
Correct. All right, let's try and I can add a page. So what if I told you find the degree of this? It's slow. It'll catch up. What is the degree of this? Good. This is a monomial, so we add everything. So it's 5. When you've got the plus and minus signs going on, let me do this in a darker color so it shows up. 5x squared y plus 3y to the 10th plus 5z4. What is the degree of this polynomial? 10. We look for the biggest. Okay? As soon as you see those plus and minus signs, that's when we do each one separately and then find the largest number. Pretty good on finding the degree. Okay? Let's practice putting it in standard form and finding the leading coefficient. On that page, but it has it on this page. So this chart right here, you need to memorize. I'm only going to test you on constant, linear, quadratic, and cubic. Know that when it has a degree of 0, it's constant. When the degree is 1, it's linear. When it's 2, it's quadratic. And when it's 3, it's cubic. You also need to know the names for whether it's a monomial, meaning one term, 2 terms is binomial, 3 terms trinomial, and 4 or more poly. I'm actually writing the names on there so you don't need to remember them. So when it asks you to name, that question will have 2 answers. You will also have to find the degree of the polynomial from this lesson and write it in standard form. So let me go back to the first page of this one. So let's say let's find that one right here. So I'm going to put up a polynomial, and you're going to tell me the name based on the number of terms and based on the degree. So for example, if right here that I highlighted, and know based on the degree, if it's got a degree of 0, it's constant, a degree of 1, it's linear, 2 is quadratic, 3 cubic. Then the terms, 1 term is monomial, 2 terms is binomial, 3 terms is trinomial, 4 or more is poly. Yes?
So the terms would be like the numbers and the degree would be the exponents?
The degree is the exponents. I gave you 2x squared minus 4. What would be the name based on the number of terms? Is it a monomial, binomial, trinomial, or poly?
Binomial.
Good. 2 terms, so it's a binomial. Okay? So this would be a binomial. Okay, based on the degree, will this be constant, linear, quadratic, or cubic? Quadratic. It's got a degree of 2. Okay, so know the chart, but the monomial, binomial, you count these things. How many terms? So how many things are separated by a plus or minus sign? Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, let's try another one. 3x squared minus 4x to the third plus 5x. What would be standard form here? This is an x. What would go first?
4x to the third.
Good. Okay, and remember to take the sign with it. Okay, what's going to come second?
Plus 3x to the second.
And then last?
Plus 5x.
Okay, so this will be a question, and they will ask you, put it in standard form What is the leading coefficient?
4. -4.
-4, leading coefficient. Okay, so you will have to put it in standard form. If this had a number at the end, let me do another one with a con. Let's say I have 3xy plus 4x plus 1. Based on the number of terms, what is this? Monomial, binomial, trinomial, or polynomial? Trinomial. There's 3 of them. Okay? Now, let's go back, and this is a trick. What is the degree of this term?
2.
Good. 1 plus 1 is 2. This one has a degree of 1, and this one has a 0. So the biggest one here is a 2. Which name gives a degree of 2? Quadratic. Yes.
So you don't add them up, you look for the biggest one?
Yes. All right. So be able to, again, know all the names, put it in standard form, find the leading coefficient, and also find the degree of a monomial and a polynomial. And then the last lesson. So let's say it is 5x squared minus 3x to the 5th minus x plus 4 minus 3x squared. What will come first? Oh wait, let me change this to a third, sorry. All right, what comes first? Good. So the negative 3x to the 5th. What comes next? That last thing is a 3. You know, it looks kind of bad. So that's a to the 3rd. So we'll do that one next. All right, what's next? So far, we've done this one. We've done this one. What comes next? Kiara. Okay, the 5x squared. So we've used that one. What comes next? This one or this one? Jason? Negative x. And then last but not least will be the number that doesn't have a letter. Why are they all negatives? Because you pull whatever signs in front. So see how this oh, thank you. Good catch. Okay, she caught that I had put a negative here, but it was a positive. Good catch.
What if there's like a negative 2x and then negative 5x? How do you tell which one?
You would add. You have to combine like terms first.
Oh, so you have to combine them and then put them in the
Yes. So she had a good question. What if I had a negative 2x squared here? Before you put it in standard form, you would group your like terms. Okay? Here, my leading coefficient is what? The negative 3. All right. I don't believe I gave you any questions where I asked you to find or to combine like terms first. Everything has its own term. But that would be something you might see later on. Good morning. Okay. You're also going to have to name these. So remember the slide I showed you with the names on. Last lesson was 6-4, and that was the adding and the subtracting of the polynomials. So you will be given all of your questions horizontally. So you will get questions like this, where it's just going to say add, no parentheses. We're just looking for like terms. You will also have questions where the two polynomials are separated with parentheses. Again, when we're adding, all we're doing is combining like terms. So for example, on number 4, the terms that I could group are going to be, I can group the 2y squared with the y squared here, getting 3y squared. Then I can go back and group the 3y and the 7y, giving me 10y. So you'll get questions just like that. Then you're going to get questions with parentheses. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab my x squareds. I'm going to group those. So I only add coefficients here. 6 plus 2 is 8. And then I'll go back and I will get my x's. And 3 plus 6 is 9. For this lesson, you just need to take your time, watch your signs. The exponents are not changing. We're only adding the like terms together. Now the second page of this has the subtraction. This is where we're going to do the keep, change, or the keep, change, flip, however you memorized it. So again, for example, if I do this last one, I'm going to keep the first polynomial exactly the same. I'm going to change this subtraction sign and now make it an addition sign. And then in my second parenthesis, I'm going to change all of the signs to opposite of what they are. This is a positive c to the third, so now it's negative. It's going to become now a positive 2c and a negative 5. And now I'm going to go back and group my like terms. Notice at the beginning, I have a c to the 5th power here. I don't have any c to the 5th powers over here in my red underlined one. So I'm just going to rewrite 4c to the 5th power. Then the next term I'm encountering is going to be the 8c squared. And if you want to like cross these out as you're doing them, like I used this one already. Now I'm coming to the 8c squared. Notice there's no c squareds here. So I'm just going to rewrite it. Then I'm going to come to my negative 2c. Notice I've got a positive 2c. When the variable has numbers that are going to cancel out, so for example, when I do negative 2 plus 2, that gives me 0. I'm not going to write 0c in my answer. It's gone. The next thing I encounter is going to be the negative 2. I'm going to look for any constants to group it with. So I do have a negative 2 here and a negative 5 here, giving me negative 7. So now I've used those. I never grouped my negative c to the third, so I'm just going to write it in my answer. Now, it's not in standard form, and that's perfectly fine. Yes?
So if you have like a subtraction and then parentheses and then C3,
Yes.
you would put the subtraction to a positive sign, like a plus sign, and the C3, since it's positive to negative sign?
Correct. Okay? So if you don't do the keep, flip, change or the stay, change, when you would go to write your answer, when you couldn't group anything with that c to the third power, you might think it's still positive, and you're going to get it wrong. I'm going to be looking for every little detail. You have to watch your signs. You will lose points if you don't take your time and watch your signs. Any questions?
Can you show the homework just so I can see it?
Yes. Okay. All right. So again, you will have exponents, no variable exponents, or no questions from the exponent lessons, whether it's negative or positive, or fractions that'll have letters. Then you will have questions where you have to find the degree of the monomial, questions where you'll find the degree of the polynomial. You will also have to classify based on the number of terms and the degree. You will also have to write a polynomial in standard form and give the leading coefficient. And then you will have questions where you will be adding and subtracting. Okay? Take your time and watch your signs. There's actually 8 of the 20 questions that will come from 6-4, the adding and subtracting. Any questions? Okay, so continue to look through these study guides for the last few minutes. And then if you have last minute questions, you can ask. And the answers are provided for all of the study guides on the last page from each section. I'm going to upload this video, so if you missed anything, you can go home and watch it or watch it now. Okay? Again, last test of the third quarter.